Well, my name is Isaac Antonio Gilliard, and I'm a behavioral health counselor. As a counselor, I do a few things. The main thing is relating to a lot of our population and talking to them about their issues and making them feel like they have a safe space to communicate with DCS personnel. There's a lot of times with officers, they see security and then they need to be able to see someone that's non-armed. So being able to talk to them and keeping them in a place where they don't feel so congested is what I try to provide. My career history, actually I'm a retired military soldier. I started with the Department of Corrections December of 2002. I stayed with that department up until 2006, 2007, and I transferred from the Department of Corrections to the Department of Community Supervision. Well, not community supervision at the time. I came over as a surveillance officer with probations. Stayed a surveillance officer for 2 years, then transferred and became a probation officer. As a probation officer, I had a high, medium, and a max caseload. Actually, after I did that for maybe 2 years, I became somewhat the administrator of the Community Impact Program, commonly referred to as SIP. I stayed with that program for 2 years, shortly before getting deployed with the military. I was deployed for 4 years, and when I came back, I assumed the role as a community supervision officer. That's when I realized that the agency changed, and I remained an officer for maybe a year before I transferred and became a civilian behavioral health counselor. My role as a behavioral health counselor, how that makes community supervision easier is that I believe that education and educating people is the best way to get people to comply. Without a lack of education, it is forced compliance, and forced compliance is never genuine compliance. It's disingenuous in my opinion. So educating our clients and helping them to understand why it's okay to do right, why it's okay to remain drug-free and lead a drug-free life makes it easier on the community supervision officer to handle his or her job. As a behavioral health counselor, what's most rewarding about my job is having the satisfaction of knowing that I'm a part of someone's recovery, that I'm a part of them getting better and feeling better. And I know that a lot of times that in my profession, officers, counselors are sometimes the only positive role model that our clients see. So it's incumbent upon me to be as professional as possible and to have a client come back and say, hey, Mr. G, this is what I accomplished. Those are small milestones for us, but it's major for them. And to see the look of satisfaction and the look of accomplishment on their face when they walk across the stage, when they've got 30 days of clean screens, when they got even 1 day of being clean, it just does so much for me, and I can see that it does a lot for the client. My involvement with someone that was on my caseload, went through the DRC and became a success story. Actually, it's just that. As an officer, I supervised a young man who had aspirations of joining the military, and he continued to use drugs, and he ended up being in the day reporting center. Well, some time passed, and then I became a counselor, and he walked in the door, and I spoke with him, and I was like, I remember you telling me when I was your officer that you wanted to be a soldier. What happened with that? And he told me he fell off and that he felt defeated. And I said, well, let's work on a plan to help you become that soldier you want to be. So he struggled a little bit more with drugs, but through creating treatment plans and being able to give him goals, he accomplished those goals. He was under the first offender. And when his probation was up, he was able to purge on off of supervision with no problems. He stayed in contact with me, and I ended up hooking him up with a recruiter. Spoke to the recruiter, let him know a little bit of background about the young man. Today, he's a staff sergeant in the military. When he comes home, he stops by the probation office to see us. And that means a whole lot to me that I was a part of that journey. What has been my proudest moment and accomplishment is actually there's several, and I get to experience it twice a year. It's seeing our participants, our clients walk across the stage. We get to watch them day one come into the program and feel defeated and feel like they're not going to be able to make it through. We also get to watch them kick and scream and fight the program. We also get to watch them not understand the very essence of the program and why it's important to them. But through counseling, through supervision, through them passing their drug screens, doing everything that's required of them in the DRC, they make it to the point where they can graduate. And so many of them come to me as well as the other counseling professionals and say things like, I can't believe I made it. Being able to put on a cap and gown and watch someone put on a cap and gown, knowing full well that this is an opportunity that they did not have in school, or they just decided not to finish school. They didn't graduate. But for them, putting on that cap and gown and walking across the stage and receiving a diploma is almost like a college graduation. And we get to experience that twice a year. Those are proudest moments for me. Some challenges that I've had to overcome as a behavioral health counselor started early on in my journey as a counselor. Almost 95% of me is officer. 95% of me represents discipline, what's written in black and white. It's all about rules and regulations. So, and most people say I don't have a user-friendly look. So when we have people coming to the program, they want to deal with everybody but me. And having to be able to bridge the gap to let them know that I do have a personality is one of the things. But the hardest part was leaving officership and becoming a counselor, because so much of me wanted to still remain in the shoes of an officer, and I believe that I was able to do both. And it was hard because I had to put down one, and I had to adhere to what my assigned profession was. So leaving officership and becoming a counselor was perhaps the hardest thing I've ever had to do. What else I'd like to share is that it's been an exciting journey. It's been 20 years for me, and being a counselor is a job that I've always wanted, but being an officer, being a soldier are two jobs I never wanted to do. I never cared about those type jobs, and I found myself, having done those jobs, realized that they were such a rewarding thing, and they made me into the person that I am today. And I believe that being able to communicate with our people, my co-workers, and those who have been appointed over me has been fashioned heavily by what I've gone through in life as a soldier and as an officer and now counselor.